When I was 18, I accidentally killed a rich brat while trying to protect Elaine Green. But she accepted a bribe from the thug's family and gave false testimony in court. My act of self-defense was twisted into premeditated murder. I was sentenced to death. After my execution, she knelt before my mother, saying she was sorry for what she'd done to me. She asked my mom to accept her as a goddaughter, promising to care for her in her old age. In the end, she swindled my family out of all our assets and ran off with another man. My mom, being the mother of a convicted murderer, faced discrimination and contempt for the rest of her life. She died in poverty and illness, a broken woman. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on that evening when she asked me to meet her on South Street. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. Johnny Brown, are you coming or not? Elaine Green's voice rang in my ears, clear and melodious. I tried hard to suppress the anger in my heart. How dare this wretched girl still appear before me? Wait, where am I? School? Besides Elaine's voice, I could hear the clamor of classmates laughing and shouting. The sound of students reading aloud from the next classroom drifted in. The setting sun cast a golden glow on the school's windows. I confirmed it several times. I was back. Back to sixth form with 99 days left until A-levels, as written on the blackboard at the back of the classroom. Johnny Brown, if you're not going, I'll ask Zane Johnson out, Elaine said with a hint of challenge in her eyes, her cheeks puffed out in annoyance. The zipper of her loose school uniform was only half done up, revealing the tight vest underneath that hugged her ample chest. It was enough to make many boys salivate. In my past life, I had loved this look of hers. Now, in my eyes, she was nothing but a piece of rotten, stinking meat. I'm not going, I said firmly. I stuffed the remaining textbooks into my bag and took another look at the classroom, both strange and familiar before preparing to leave. Elaine blocked my way again. What's your problem, Johnny? She demanded loudly. I'm being bullied and you don't care? I'm telling you, if you don't go today, we're through. I stopped in my tracks and said coldly, we never started, so how can we be through? Elaine's mother and my mother were classmates and best friends. In my past life, I naturally believed this too. But after my death, the things Elaine and her mother did made me realize I had given my heart to the wrong person. And my mom had unknowingly made a fake friend. Elaine took advantage of my feelings for her, manipulating me again and again. Zane Johnson was our school's bully. He had harassed Elaine several times before, which made me very angry. But Elaine didn't see it that way. She even told me that having boys like her proved she was attractive. Miss Green, feel free to ask out Zane or any other boy. It's none of my business, I said. With that, I walked past her and headed out of the classroom. The sky was blue, the air fresh. The air of freedom felt good. Coward, came Elaine's voice from behind. Johnny Brown, don't you dare come to my house ever again. Fine, I turned back and replied calmly. As I was pushing my bicycle out of the bike shed, I saw Zane Johnson with his arm around Elaine Green's waist, surrounded by a group of rough-looking lads. Zane, with one leg twitching, said to me, Johnny Brown, Elaine's my girlfriend now. You coward, stay away from her, or I'll beat you up every time I see you. I laughed inwardly. We'll see if Zane makes it back safely from South Street tonight before making any future plans. In my previous life at 18, I was just a hot-headed lad. I knew nothing. It wasn't until I accidentally killed Simon Clark, a rich kid, that I discovered Elaine had been involved with Simon from Royal Kenton School all along. She'd spent over 10 grand of his money on food, drinks, and entertainment. For a sixth form student, 10 grand was a significant amount. When Simon wanted to take things further, she actually told him she had a boyfriend. And I was that unfortunate boyfriend, she mentioned. She played us both. Simon got angry, I got angry, and in my previous life, I ended up killing Simon by accident on South Street. This time, let her go with Zane. Zane, mate, don't worry. I'll stay far away from her from now on, I said with a smile. Just make sure you keep an eye on her and don't let her bother me. Oh, and you might want to ask her if she's got any other boyfriends. As expected, Elaine immediately jumped up at my words, pointing at my face and shouting, "Johnny Brown, what are you implying? It's bad enough that you're a coward, but now you're slandering me? I've only been close to you because we grew up together. And now, when Zane confesses to me, you throw a tantrum and threaten to take back your family's flat? Do you have to let everyone know that my family can't afford rent and we're living in your place?" With that, she crouched down and started sobbing. Yes, I had indeed mentioned asking my mum to take back the flat we'd rented to Elaine's family. After all, they'd lived there for 5 years without paying a penny in rent. They'd even knocked down a load-bearing wall without our permission. The property management had complained to my mum several times. Given this, I had suggested to my mum that we should take the flat back. We weren't getting any rent anyway. Now, in Elaine's version, this had become my way of manipulating her. Seeing her cry, Zane was immediately heartbroken. He hurried to help her up, shouting, "Don't worry, Elaine love. I'll rent you another flat." I couldn't be bothered with the rest. I just pushed my bike and left. That evening, I heard that boys from Royal Kenton School and West High School had a massive brawl on South Street. Zane Johnson from West High School stabbed Simon Clark in the abdomen with a switchblade. Just like in my past life, the knife was brought by Elaine Green, who gave it to Zane. Unlike my past life, after the incident, Elaine tried to pull Zane away to leave. But Zane, who had been in countless fights since childhood, knew better. He didn't leave. He immediately called for an ambulance, then the police. The next morning when I arrived at school, all my classmates were discussing the incident. Zane didn't come to class, neither did Elaine. I heard they were both at the police station. I didn't pay much attention, focusing on my revision instead. In my past life, during A-levels, I was in prison. By then, the first trial had concluded, and I was sentenced to death, feeling terrified and uneasy. My mum sold our house and her company to continue the appeal. In prison, each day felt like a year. When I saw the A-level news on TV, I cried. In the afternoon after class, I was returning my English textbook to the teacher's office. I accidentally discovered student files on the head teacher's desk. I quickly flipped to Zane's file and glanced at his date of birth. Zane was 2 months younger than me. Also, the biggest change in this life was that Simon didn't die. I suddenly realized that after I refused to go to South Street with Elaine, the butterfly effect had caused things to develop unexpectedly. Simon not dying meant he would continue to harass Elaine. After all, he had spent over £10,000 trying to woo a girl. Now, that girl had someone stab him. Anyone would feel upset about that. Zane wasn't me. I was just an ordinary student, studious and principled, who admired Elaine but would also respect her. But Zane was the top dog at West High School. His claim of admiring Elaine was likely just lust. Now that he had stabbed Simon for her without hesitation, surely Elaine owed him something in return? I prepared myself to watch the drama unfold. However, I never dreamed that after school, Elaine would stop me at the school gate. "What is it?" I asked nonchalantly. "Johnny Brown, lend me £15,000, Elaine Green said directly. Seeing that I didn't respond, she seemed to finally burn her bridges and said to me, "Your mum's not home tonight, right? I'll come to your place." "You don't understand what you're saying." I shook my head. "You're a young lady, and you're old enough to know better. What are you thinking? Coming to my house late at night when my mum's not home?" Elaine stomped her foot, still a student after all, feeling embarrassed. But she still said, "Johnny Brown, do you really need me to spell it out? Do I need to write you a contract or something? If you lend me £15,000 tonight, I'll be yours." I really couldn't imagine such words coming from Elaine Green's mouth. "Miss Green, Zane Johnson got into a fight for you and stabbed someone. Simon Clark has spent a lot of money on you. I think these two gentlemen are more suitable for you." Saying this, I pushed my bicycle and left, not bothering to deal with her anymore. Behind me, I could hear her stomping and cursing, but I pretended not to hear. When I got home, my mum was on the balcony making a phone call. I vaguely heard a few sentences. It seemed to be Uncle Raymond calling. asking my mum to invest in renewable energy with him. In my previous life, at this time I had already been arrested and detained in custody. There were some things I wasn't aware of, but I knew that Uncle Raymond had a first-class eye for business investments, and in the next few years, renewable energy would have government support and good development prospects, worth investing in. I pondered how to broach the subject with my mum. "Johnny's back." My mum greeted me with a smile. "Johnny, there's something I need to discuss with you." My mum sat down beside me and sighed. "Your Uncle Raymond just called, talking about investing in renewable energy. I see this as a business opportunity, but we're a bit short on money. I'm considering selling our flat in Leinster Square." Hearing this, I was overjoyed. The flat in Leinster Square wasn't big, but being in an upscale area, it was quite valuable. After renovation, my family hadn't moved in, but had been letting Elaine Green and her mother live there. These two were like leeches attached to my family, not working, only knowing how to suck blood. In my previous life, I was naive and completely oblivious. And my mum, considering her friendship with Elaine's mother, couldn't bring herself to ask them to leave. "Mum, that's great." I nodded eagerly, saying, "Aunt Green has been renting that flat, and she's even secretly removed load-bearing walls. The property management has complained to you many times. It's best to take back the flat and sell it." My mum's expression was a bit strange as she asked me, "You don't object?" "Why would I object? Aren't you?" My mum hesitated for a moment, but still asked, "Don't you like that Elaine girl?" I quickly shook my head, saying, "Mum, where did you get that idea? We were just classmates, a bit closer because we studied together. How does that mean I like her?" Hearing me say this, my mum nodded repeatedly. Then, she stood up and went to the balcony to call Elaine's mother, ordering her to move out within 3 days. From my mum's words, I learned that she had asked Elaine's mother to move out a month ago, but she had refused. Around 9 p.m., Elaine's mother brought Elaine to our house. Speaking of Elaine's mother, she was also quite a character. 5 years ago, her husband lost all their property due to gambling and was left with a mountain of debt, which couldn't be cleared even after selling their house. Despite this, he still often drank heavily. One day, he encountered debt collectors from an underground gambling den who gave him a severe beating. In a foul mood, Elaine's father bought 2 bottles of cheap wine, drank himself into a stupor, and lay down on the street. When someone found him the next day, he was already dead. After Elaine's father died, her mother brought her daughter to seek refuge with our family. Only my kind-hearted mum would take them in, even arranging a clerical job for Elaine's mother in our family company. But even so, Elaine's mother complained about the hard work and stopped going to the company 2 years ago. She still reached out to my mum every month for her salary. Mrs. Green entered, greeting my mum with an affectionate sis at every turn. "It's late, and Johnny still needs to study. If you have something to say, just say it," my mum said directly. Mrs. Green beat around the bush for a while, but her point was simple. She'd lived in the house for so many years, why should she move out? She even claimed she deserved credit for looking after and maintaining the property. My mum's face immediately darkened. She told Mrs. Green that if she didn't move out, she'd start legal proceedings against her for unlawful occupation of property. She'd also claim 5 years' worth of rent and utilities. "Sis, don't be like that," Mrs. Green said, smiling apologetically. She glanced at Elaine Green sitting beside her and said, "Sis, you've watched Elaine grow up, and she's always been close to Johnny. Why don't we arrange their engagement soon?" She then gave Elaine a meaningful look. Elaine quickly sat down next to me and tried to link her arm with mine. I pushed her away and said firmly, "Mrs. Green, these are 2 separate issues. First, please leave our house. Secondly, your daughter has been involved with 2 boys, causing jealousy and even violence. It's the talk of the school. I don't want to get mixed up in this mess. I have no respect for her." Hearing this, Mrs. Green couldn't keep face and angrily said, "I'm talking to your mum. A youngster like you has no right to interrupt." My mum, seeing her dare to shout at me, stood up and rebuked her. "Enough! My Johnny is right. I don't think much of you two either. I must reclaim the house. As for the engagement, I certainly don't approve of your girl. She's not good enough for my Johnny." Elaine's face turned bright red with embarrassment. She pointed at me and cursed, "Johnny Brown, don't be so cruel. Saying such things just to get the house back. In a few days, even if you kneel before me and beg, I won't pay you any attention." I glared at her and said coldly, "Get out." The very next day, my mum hired people to start reclaiming the house. After school, Elaine Green cornered me at the school gates again, demanding to know what I was up to. "Simon Clark gives me trouble. I ask for your help, and you refuse. Then you get jealous when Zane Johnson and I are together, right? It's such a small matter, and you go running to your parents? Johnny Brown, have you no shame?" She actually thought I was jealous? I laughed mockingly. "Elaine Green, if you don't have a mirror at home, take a look at yourself in a puddle. You? Worthy of making me jealous." With that, I walked away. That evening, my mum told me she had finally reclaimed the house and put it up for sale. However, Mrs. Green threw a tantrum, accusing my mum of only caring about petty profits and disregarding their old friendship as classmates. She claimed we were throwing a widow and her orphan daughter out on the street. She also said that Elaine was pretty and did well in school. She warned my mum not to look down on them, saying that when Elaine gets into Oxford or Cambridge and marries well, my mum shouldn't come asking for favors. I comforted my mum, saying that while Elaine's grades used to be good, now she was entangled with 2 boys and wasn't focusing on her studies. At this rate, she might not even make it into a decent university, let alone Oxford or Cambridge. I also reassured her that I could get into Oxford or Cambridge too. If this year's A-level exams were the same as in my previous life, I'd have a chance. In my past life, I was sentenced to death for accidentally killing Simon Clark. My mum and I both felt it was unfair. It was clearly self-defense. How could it be ruled as premeditated murder? So, my mum was running around preparing for an appeal, while I remained in prison. After the A-levels, I begged my mum to get me copies of the exam papers. With nothing else to do in prison, I counted the days, but those exam papers, I reviewed them countless times, solved them over and over. I knew them by heart. In this life, I've already compiled everything, referencing online answers and teachers' explanations, practicing repeatedly. I think that even as a student who's usually just above average, I might have a shot at Oxford or Cambridge. 2 days later, Elaine and Zane started openly going out together. They even began wearing matching outfits. I heard that Zane's uncle owns a successful business and is quite wealthy. When Zane stabbed Simon, since they were all students, Zane's uncle threw money around and pulled some strings. He apologized to Simon's family, and they agreed to settle out of court. I'm not sure exactly how much it cost, but rumor has it that it was over £100,000. Far from being ashamed, Zane boasted about having such an influential uncle, showing off at every opportunity. In the school's first mock A-level exam, Elaine Green's grades plummeted. From being one of the top students in the class, she dropped to the middle tier. Her overall school ranking fell below 150th place. As for me, perhaps due to boredom in my previous life, I had spent 3 years practicing exam questions. In this life, after a period of intense study, I surprisingly came first in the class and made it into the school's top 10. The head teacher called Elaine Green to the office and tried to advise her earnestly. However, she chewed her gum nonchalantly and said, "Sir, I just don't want my youth to be filled with regrets. Youth should be wild and free, not wasting precious time on dull, boring books." The head teacher could only shake his head helplessly. He called Elaine's mother several times, hoping she could persuade her daughter. But for some reason, Elaine's mother had recently become obsessed with playing bridge and had no time to deal with Elaine. On May Day, the school was on holiday. Henry Davies, a close friend of mine, called me. "Johnny Brown, do you know?" he asked. Puzzled, I replied, "Know what? You've buried your head in books so much your brain's gone mushy." Henry exclaimed, "Elaine Green? Weren't you two together before? Did you break up?" "Oh, come off it. I said irritably. When was I ever with her? Don't deny it, the whole class knows you two were an item. Now she's been snatched away by Zane Johnson. Listen, you still have a chance. Zane's dad got Elaine's mum into bed, and his wife caught them red-handed. It's so juicy. I've got a video. I'll send it to you. I knew Henry and Zane lived in the same neighborhood. Soon, he sent the video over. It was quite unsightly. Henry, being a gossip, told me that after my mum took back the house from Elaine and her mother, they had nowhere to go. So Elaine took her mum to Zane for help. Zane was in a difficult position. Although he was the school bully, always fighting and causing trouble, at home he was still just a kid. Coincidentally, Zane's father found out about this situation. Elaine's mother, still attractive despite her age, caught Zane's father's eye. So, he arranged for the mother and daughter to stay temporarily in his family's coffee shop. If the coffee shop was short-staffed, he would ask Elaine's mother to help out. At night, after the customers had left, he would start making inappropriate advances towards her. A coffee shop is a place full of chatter and gossip. Seeing Elaine's mother and Zane's father often exchanging meaningful glances naturally sparked rumors, which soon reached Zane's mother's ears. She staked out the coffee shop late one night and caught them in the act. Zane's mother was so angry she trashed the coffee shop, scratched her husband's face, and even beat up Elaine's mother before kicking her out. I just treated this as gossip. After all, it had nothing to do with me. However, on the day we returned to school after the holiday, Elaine Green came to my desk and slammed a piece of paper in front of me. "What's this?" I picked it up and looked at it, immediately bursting into laughter. It was a handwritten note asking me to lend her £20,000. "Elaine Green, you're not serious, are you?" I asked her. "Johnny Brown, I know you have money. You've been saving your Christmas and birthday money for years, and your mum gives you so much pocket money every month that you can't even spend it all. Just lend it to me first." I shook my head, smiling, and said, "Miss Green, yes, I have money, but why should I lend it to you?" I handed the note back to her, telling her not to disturb me during class. I knew the Green women were short of money. This was a secret I only discovered after my death in my previous life. Mrs. Green depended on my mum for survival, living in our house and eating our food. She would often come to our house, helping herself to our things. She'd take my mum's clothes and shoes if she fancied them, without even asking. People, when idle, tend to stir up trouble. And so, Mrs. Green fell victim to a romance scam. A man tricked her, claiming he was into investments with high returns. She was tempted. Unfortunately, she had no ready cash, so she took out a payday loan and gave it to the man. Then, the man disappeared, never to be contacted again. Too proud to tell my mum, she didn't even report it to the police. In my previous life, after I accidentally killed Simon Clark, the Clark family harbored a deep hatred for me, vowing to end my life. They bribed Elaine Green to give false testimony, offering her a large sum of money, allowing Mrs. Green to quietly pay off the payday loan. It's laughable how my mum always treated Mrs. Green like a sister and Elaine Green like her own daughter. And I, at that time, was infatuated with Elaine Green, never imagining she would falsely accuse me without a shred of evidence. Now, naturally, there's no one to pay off this debt for Mrs. Green. The loan company's debt collectors are hounding her relentlessly, even showing up at her door. Add to that the scandalous affair between Mrs. Green and old Mr. Johnson during the May Day holiday. Mrs. Green was beaten by Mrs. Johnson and thrown out of the house. With no choice, she's temporarily staying at a hotel, looking for a flat to rent nearby. But the rent is expensive and there's the deposit to consider. Facing the prospect of homelessness, she's anxious, cursing Elaine Green daily for being useless, unable to charm a man and getting them kicked out by my mum. Elaine Green is also nursing a grudge, actively trying to win Zane Johnson's favor. She believes that since Zane's uncle is wealthy, and his family background is no worse than mine, Zane must have some money. What she doesn't know is that, unlike me, Zane is someone who can't hold on to money. Left with no choice, Elaine Green set her sights on me again. She came to me, haughty as ever, asking to borrow money. I thought that after I refused, that would be the end of it. However, after school, Zane Johnson, along with a few thugs, cornered me on the street, demanding I give him some money to spend. What he didn't know was that I knew a bit of boxing. I'm not one to back down from a fight. The 5 thugs weren't much of a match and quickly scattered. As Zane left, he threw out a threat, telling me not to be smug, to watch my back, that he'd get me sooner or later. Instead of going home, I went straight to the nearby police station to file a report. "Officer," I said, "I don't have any other requests. I just ask that you help me keep Zane Johnson from causing me trouble." I added, "The A-levels are coming up soon. I really don't have the time or energy to deal with these issues." I knew that reporting this kind of incident to the police was just a formality. Although extortion is considered a serious matter, I hadn't actually paid any money. I didn't expect the police to arrest Zane Johnson just for this. I simply wanted to have a record of the report on file. A day later, Zane's mother came to the school under the pretense of visiting her son. Upon seeing Elaine Green, she grabbed her hair and slapped her face several times. "You shameless slut, seducing my son and encouraging him to commit extortion and robbery." Elaine, being quite feisty herself, headbutted the woman in the chest, crying and fighting back, scratching, clawing, and pulling hair. The weather was hot, and Elaine's school uniform buttons were torn off, exposing her undergarments. She was half naked, which was quite indecent. The crowd erupted in laughter and jeers. Zane, who had been playing football on the field, rushed over when he heard that his mother and Elaine were fighting. Seeing the crowd, Zane's mother pointed at him and shouted, "You good for nothing," fancying this shameless tart. Although Zane was known as a school bully, he was still somewhat afraid of his mother and kept his head down, not daring to speak. Elaine jumped up, pointing at Zane's mother and hurling insults, all sorts of vulgar language. Then she started cursing at Zane. Zane, being the school bully, was usually very concerned about his reputation. Having his mother cause a scene at school had already humiliated him. He didn't dare say anything to his mother, but when he heard Elaine call him a coward and other such words, he became furious and slapped her across the face. The blow sent Elaine staggering. Zane's mother pounced on her again, hitting her and tearing at her clothes. Elaine was wearing school trousers with an elastic waistband, which came off easily after a few tugs from Zane's mother. Humiliated and enraged, Elaine bit Zane's mother on the neck and wouldn't let go, even as the woman punched and kicked her. Finally, some teachers arrived and separated them. By this time, Elaine was almost completely naked. The commotion only ended when the head teacher came and escorted Zane's mother to the office. I heard later that Elaine's mother sought compensation from the Johnson family. However, Zane's mother, being a fierce woman, threatened to release a video of Elaine's mother sleeping with Zane's father online, and so the matter was left unresolved. For the next 2 weeks, Zane Johnson didn't come to school. Elaine Green approached me a few times, asking to borrow money, claiming it was for rent. She even said she'd do anything if I lent her some cash. I firmly refused. I heard that Elaine's mother had also tried to contact my mom, but she was ignored. Mrs. Green then took Elaine to make a scene at the Johnsons' house again. But Mr. Johnson was the type of man who relied on his wife's family to get by, so he wouldn't dare upset his wife. He had no real feelings for Mrs. Green. It was just a fling. As a result, Mrs. Johnson had some people rough up the Green women and throw them out. At the end of May, around midnight, I received a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer the first time, but the caller persisted. Eventually, I picked up. Johnny, please help Elaine." I heard Mrs. Green's desperate sobs through the phone. "She's pregnant with your child." Confused, I replied, "Mrs. Green, surely you don't think a few conversations lead to pregnancy. Whoever the father is, it's certainly not me." I was about to hang up when she pleaded, Johnny Brown, I'm begging you, give us some money. Elaine had an abortion. She's in the hospital." I responded firmly, "Mrs. Green, this has nothing to do with me." Then I ended the call. Feeling a bit uneasy, I rang my mum. She advised me to stay out of it. Though that's what she said, I remained cautious about this person who, in a past life, had caused my wrongful death. The next day, I made some inquiries and discovered that Zane had been confined at home by his mother, forbidden from going out. As for Mr. Johnson, the coffee shop where he usually hung out had closed recently. He'd managed to get a cushy job at his brother-in-law's factory, supposedly doing after-sales maintenance work. Rumor had it he wouldn't be back for 3 or 4 months. Mrs. Green couldn't find anyone to help her. She stood outside the Johnsons' house, hurling abuse until a neighbor, fed up with the commotion, dumped a bucket of dirty dishwater over her head. With no money, the Greens were kicked out of their hotel. Mrs. Green desperately called around, borrowing £20 here, £30 there. Eventually, she scraped together enough to rent half a basement room where she and Elaine could temporarily stay. That might have been the end of it, but debt collectors were hounding her daily about her payday loans, threatening to break her legs if she didn't pay up. They even said they'd blind her in one eye. Terrified, she forced Elaine to find ways to get money. She berated Elaine constantly at home, even resorting to violence. Mrs. Green blamed everything on Elaine, convinced it was her daughter who had offended me, causing my mum to get angry and throw them out. She also believed her online romance had ended because her partner found out she had a daughter. So, she pressured Elaine to borrow money from me. Elaine knew it was pointless to ask me. Left with no choice, she went to Simon Clark for help. In my previous life, Simon Clark died by my hand. In this life, I made sure to find out about Simon Clark. He's the same age as us, a proper rich kid and only child. Due to his schooling, he lives in Leinster Square, which originally made him and Elaine Green neighbors. Simon Clark must have read too many inappropriate books. Being a teenager, he had some misguided ideas about girls. Seeing that Elaine Green was pretty and around his age, he wanted to play with her. He threw money at her, seriously intending to do something improper, but Elaine Green ran away. Simon Clark became furious. He told Elaine Green to either return his money or comply with his wishes. Elaine Green had already spent all the money. In my previous life, she deceived me, saying Simon Clark coveted her beauty and wanted to be with her. At that time, in my eyes, she was my girlfriend. How could I allow others to defile her? So I went straight to fight Simon Clark, ending up stabbing him to death and getting into big trouble. In this life, I didn't go. Zane Johnson took my place as the fall guy and also stabbed Simon Clark. But Simon Clark was only lightly injured. With Zane Johnson's uncle paying compensation, the matter was settled. Now, Simon Clark has recovered, and Elaine Green has actively sought him out again. So he went on a wild spree. He tormented Elaine Green to the point where she couldn't live or die. Somehow, when she went home that night, she suddenly started bleeding profusely. Crying, she told her mother, who at first thought it was just her period and scolded her. But by midnight, things weren't looking good, so they finally took her to the hospital. The examination revealed she had miscarried. Her mother thought she had been with me, so she borrowed a phone and called me, intending to blackmail me. I had naturally blocked her own phone number long ago. After learning the cause and effect, I felt relieved. Thank goodness, in this life, I had distanced myself early on and also persuaded my mum to cut ties with Elaine's mother long ago. The hospital needed payment, but Elaine's mother had no money. I never dreamed she would call our head teacher. Her absurd reason was that her daughter had gotten pregnant at school, so the head teacher should be responsible. Our head teacher, having taught for so many years, had never encountered such a shameless parent before. Of course, being a head teacher, she was experienced and had dealt with all sorts of unreasonable parents. The next day, she organized a fundraiser at school. A few days ago, Zane Johnson's mother had caused a scene at school, which had already spread throughout the school. Everyone treated it as an amusing anecdote, discussing it with relish. I heard several versions were already circulating. Now, with this fundraiser happening, everyone knew that a classmate named Elaine Green from a certain class had behaved improperly, gotten pregnant, and had no money for an abortion. For A-level students, everything was already tense and pressing with a lot of pressure. But this gossip spread particularly fast. When Elaine Green came back to school, no one wanted to sit next to her. The head teacher, with a cold face, directly made her move her desk to the very back. I noticed that since her miscarriage, Elaine Green's mental state had become problematic. The way she looked at me was strange, giving me the creeps. Moreover, that look in her eyes really didn't seem like that of a secondary school student. I remained on guard. Fortunately, everything went smoothly until the A-levels. When the exam papers were handed out, I smiled. Sure enough, it was the set of papers I was familiar with. In my previous life, I had done them countless times. In this life, after being reborn, I had secretly solved them numerous times. After the A-levels, my mom suggested I go out and have some fun, saying I should relax now that exams were over. I refused and started a summer job instead. To be honest, I wanted to go out and have fun too. But now Elaine and her mother were at their wits' end. My mom is kind-hearted, and I was afraid they might do something extreme and harm her. Soon, the A-level results came out. Unsurprisingly, I was the top student in the county. Various prestigious universities were vying to invite me. On graduation day, the head teacher asked me to say a few words on stage. After some thought, I said, "At every age, we should do what's appropriate for that time in our lives. During our A-levels, we should focus on studying hard. Our youth shouldn't be spent recklessly." Many people applauded, while others seemed indifferent. In the evening, a few of us lads who were close friends agreed to have dinner together. By chance, we ran into Zane Johnson, who was also there with a group of people. He seemed to have had a bit to drink and put his hand on my shoulder, asking if I was planning to go to Cambridge or Oxford. I smiled without answering. "My uncle says I should study abroad," Zane said with a grin. "That's great," I replied. Zane's A-level results weren't good, not even reaching the standard for a basic university entry. Of course, I also knew that Elaine Green's results were even worse than Zane's. "Brown, about what happened last time, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking straight," Zane said. "My uncle was right, that woman, both mother and daughter, are filthy. They're not worth it." I was about to speak when I looked up and saw Elaine standing in the doorway, her face ashen. Zane clearly saw her too, but he turned away and said loudly, "Lads, let me tell you something. That Elaine Green, our former class beauty, she's now working as a prostitute. Only charges £10 a night. Any of you interested can give her a try." Ha! I thought Elaine would confront Zane, but when I turned around, I found she had already silently left. I knew I had always had someone keeping an eye on the Green family. When the debt collectors came, Mrs. Green truly had no money. They had dug up all her past. The debt collectors hired were social outcasts who first violated Mrs. Green. Later, seeing how pretty Elaine was, they defiled her as well. From then on, whenever debt collectors came, Mrs. Green would push her daughter Elaine out to be trampled on by those men. She even started pimping Elaine out, setting a fixed price. Everyone around knew about it. When my mum found out, she spat in disgust several times. Just before we were about to start university, Elaine was arrested. The charge was intentional homicide. When I heard the news, I was shocked. After inquiring, I learned that due to Mrs. Green's high-interest loans, their lives had been going downhill. Elaine wanted to attend a vocational college, but Mrs. Green wouldn't allow it, insisting she should work in a pub instead. Mrs. Green even said she had raised Elaine for so long just hoping she would support the family. The two argued constantly, eventually leading to physical fights. That wasn't all. Those scumbag debt collectors, having tasted blood, often came looking for Elaine. Finally, Elaine couldn't take it anymore. She believed the root of all evil was her own mother, so while she was asleep, Elaine stabbed her 17 times, each strike fatal. Then, shockingly, she took a shower to wash off the blood and went to meet Zane. She planned to kill him too. Zane was a small-time thug, a school bully who had been fighting since childhood. Seeing the look in her eyes, he became wary. Even so, she still managed to stab him in the thigh, nearly damaging his manhood. Elaine Green was sentenced to death. Before her execution, she demanded to see me one last time. The police contacted me and I agreed. This time, she was inside and I was outside. As I held the receiver, I was overwhelmed with emotions. "Johnny Brown, why did you refuse to go to South Street that day?" she asked me. I looked into her eyes and said softly, "You know why." My voice was low and hoarse as I continued. "The man who once loved you and stood up for you, in the end, became a sacrificial lamb for you and your mother's wealth and luxury. If you hadn't provoked Simon Clark, you wouldn't have gotten into this mess. You're just like your mother. Neither of you deserves anyone's help. Your thoughts are filthy and vicious. You only know how to blame others without reflecting on your own mistakes. Your deaths are not worth mourning." With that, I hung up the receiver and stood to leave. Behind me, I heard Elaine's shrill cry, "Johnny Brown, please save me. I don't want to die." I didn't look back and walked straight out. Outside, the sun was shining brightly.